For my underdogs, the ones willing to pay the cost. Even when we're up, we gotta take a loss. Underdogs are always against the odds. I'ma use this opportunity to do it for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. I'ma do this for my underdogs. Yeah, my underdogs.
Welcome back to another episode of the Rec Center Podcast. I'm Kenny Edwards, joined with Lorenzo Parham. Lo, I'm kind of excited about this one. It's a guy I've been watching play for a long time, but I feel like we might have burned the bridge with him.
I mean, we gonna have to talk about it, man, because what we missed is we missed the year before he came to the OEL, which kind of set the tone for his whole basketball career through high school. You know, he set the tone in a division over there. Then he came to the OEL and kind of made a name the moment he stepped into the OEL. But if you didn't know about the year before the OEL, you kind of will snub a guy on a list when you put it together. And then it's a perfect interview from our last week interview with Eric Culberson, who was also his same class year and played basketball at McClymonds High School, man. So we go dive into the story of this guy who definitely wasn't the flash when he played. Hard work prevailed him to the career he had in high school, man. So let's welcome Jules Milstead onto the Rec Center Podcast.
Big Jules, what's going on?
Good, fellas. How y'all doing, man?
Man, can't complain.
Good, man. Good, Jules. We haven't released the E Code episode yet, but E Code did throw a couple of shots at you on this episode.
Yeah, man. I had some great battles with E. Cole, man. It's mutual respect. He already know.
Yeah, definitely, man. He did say that, man. But we gonna have to release this episode later today, then follow yours up the next episode, so people can hear the E Code interview before yours drops.
It's all good.
So E Code, so what we do here, Jules, man, we try not to pull no punches, but a lot of people get on here and don't speak how they feel when we ask these questions, you know. So we go dive into it all.
Let's rock.
First thing, Jules, man, it's the Rec Center Podcast, man. Did you grow up at different rec centers, or did you play at Boys and Girls Club? Where you grew up playing at?
Well, I grew up. I grew up on Seminary East 16th up until I was about in the 8th grade, and then I moved over to stay with my grandma was sick, so then me and my mom and my dad moved over to help take care of her on 35th. So, growing up, I grew up playing at Rainbow, and then as well as East Lake YMCA. So, Rainbow is where I got my toughness from. East Lake YMCA is where I learned the game from the Lane brothers. Gilbert and Matthew Lane taught me how to play when I was 8-9 years old, skill wise. So Rainbow.
Man, I remember them Rainbow dudes. I played on a Frick team with a couple of them dudes that would play for Rainbow. Man, the West brothers. Man, they was really good in basketball too.
Yeah,
they were seminary guys. They were some seminary guys.
Yeah.
They played at East Lake as well.
Yep.
Man, we had a former guest on here that also said East Lake is where he learned how to play. Marquine Chandler.
Yeah, I remember Marquine when I was a little bit older than him, but we used to have these open runs, I think it was Wednesday nights, 6 o'clock, where all the all the adults used to run. And so when I was in high school, Curtis, who was at Skyline, and all those cats used to, Sam Moses and all those cats used to kind of get me and have me come up to East Lake when I was a young kid and kind of beat me up. And that's kind of where, I got my toughness as well as playing against the older cats. And so, yeah, I see Marquine, he was one up there as well. And so East Lake is legendary for hooping back in the day.
Low Breeze, East Lake might be coming up in a close third. I know Bushrod number one.
Yeah, Bushrod, then Brookfield. You go Bushrod, Brookfield.
Rainbow, Eastlake.
Yeah, you still got the 24 Boys and Girls Club in West Oakland. They up there.
Yeah, it's a lot of hot spots, man. A lot of ballers from different areas back then kind of stayed in their hood. That's kind of how it worked, and so wherever your hood was, that's kind of where you went used to go and hoop at. But wherever the game was, that's kind of where I traveled as well. So I was that's kind of how it went down.
Hey, Jules, break it down for us on the you going where you go to middle school, junior high school at to enrolling at St. Joe's as a freshman.
Well, I went to start off at St. Louis Bertrand. That's where I went to school from second to seventh grade. And then from there, I went to Montera for eighth grade. We had this team that we put together from our AAU team the past summer. That included me, myself, Brandon Payton, Ann Woolridge, Joe Barker. So we all, Elliot Marshall, Sean Sexton. So we all played on the same AAU team in the seventh grade going up. So we ended up all going to Montera our eighth grade year. So I was at Montera, and then from there, that's when high school, I went to St. Joe's. That's when middle school went to the ninth grade. So after that, I went to St. Joe's my 10th grade year. But before that, though, when I was in ninth grade, I played JV at Fremont High School. Me and Brandon Payton played JV together at Fremont High School when we were both at Montera.
Hey man, time out. Let's take a flashback. That eighth grade Montera team, you just named some ballers on that eighth grade team.
Yeah, our eighth grade team was legit, man. We ended up winning national. We ended up winning the state championship. We beat the Collins twins, Jaron and Jason Collins from LA. So back then, you used to compete Northern versus Southern. So we won the guy. We won everything out here. We actually went 82-0. We won the state championship. We won the state championship, beating the Collins twins in the championship, and then we won a national championship in Las Vegas. Beat teams from Kansas City, LA. So we were number one team in the country when I was in eighth grade. That's probably was the best middle school team of all times.
That's crazy.
Man, it is. It is crazy because and I remember like the Bret Hart that year. Bret Hart had like Lee Long and whoever they had on their team, but here 82-0 was like shit.
Yeah, we didn't lose a game, man.
Who put that
And
team
that's with
together?
Ray
Who was the
Young.
coach?
That's with Ray Young playing on the seventh grade team, right?
Yeah, so basically our coaches was the guy named Rick Lynch. He ran an AAU organization called NorCal, and him and Mr. Payton were our coach at Montera. So basically, this was probably the first time ever a school team was that good that we wouldn't play against other school teams, and then we went and played against other AAU teams. So we won a national championship with a school team, and all of us went to the same school.
Wow, that's dope.
Wow, that's the first unheard of. That's unheard of. Hey, so when you get into that ninth grade year, because we talked to Brandon about this too. Being a freshman at playing at Fremont in your ninth grade year. What made you not go to Fremont as a student your 10th grade year instead of going to St. Joe's?
Well, it was all kind of set up. I mean, Joe Barker, myself, we all took the test for St. Joe's, and we all was gonna go to St. Joe's. It was like, hey, let's keep the train rolling. So after our ninth grade year, we all was gonna go to St. Joe's, and we all took the test. Me, myself, Brandon, Joe Barker, we all got in, and we all decided. When we was at Fremont, we played JV we was at Montera. We played JV at Fremont, me and Brandon. So it was a good experience. But we were already set to go to St. Joe's because back then that was a powerhouse. My parents kind of wanted me to go, private school because of some of the interactions I had in middle school. So kind of wanted me to, educational wise and social wise, kind of want me to change up my environment some. And so that's the reason why. But had a lot of fun at Fremont. Learned a lot as a ninth grader. Me and Brandon was the two best kids on the JV team. I actually no offense, Ed, but I had a 40 on Oakland High the last game of the season, so it was cool.
Now, who was on
Oh,
that
hey,
Oakland High team? Was that against Marshawn and all them boys?
Eric, I remember Cooks, Big Cooks, who used to play football.
Okay.
He was on that team. I think that was. I think it may have been Ed Wiley and him. I'm not sure, but I do
Yeah, because
remember Cook
Marshawn
because
was
he
at
was a
Tech, I
bully.
think,
Yeah, Cooks
no,
was a bully,
Marshawn.
so I do remember him.
or Edna Brewer.
Nah, Marshawn is older than Jules. Marshawn was in high school already.
You're right. But Marshawn never
Yeah,
Marshawn
played for
was,
you, I don't think.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that had to be Raymond Holt and them. Like they was freshmen. Nah, Raymond was an eighth grader when Jules was a ninth grader.
Nah, Raymond Host the same year as me.
Oh, okay, he the same year as you. Okay,
Shit, 40
Yeah.
is 40
so
then.
he 40 is 40. You guys who playing? You got to foul somebody. You got to foul him. You got to start fouling at 28 in the OEL. Hey, so what was it like your first year at St. Joe's, man? Because I know you came on the scene killing that 10th grade year at St. Joe's. But what was the environment like?
It was different. Coming from Oakland to Alameda. First of all, my mom already said if I go, I had to catch the bus. So catching the bus from East Oakland all the way to Alameda was challenging. But it was a good experience. It was a smaller school setting. If you didn't do what you had to do, you kind of stuck out like a sore thumb, hanging out in the hallways or, goofing around or this, that, and the other. So it was a good experience. I mean, basketball was at its ultimate high. St. Joe's has always had the reputation of, all Americans with Jason Kidd and Adrian Neely and all those guys that was before us. And so coming in there, we had a lot of expectations because our team had no seniors. We were all freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. And 5 or 6 of us played on the AAU team together. And then we had like Ray and Mike Austin who played on and Renee Jocks who played, and Nate Marassi who also played on our younger AAU team. So we all were together. And so, it was a good experience, man. We ended up being the number 1 seed in Northern California that year. Um, we started a freshman, 2 sophomores, and 2 juniors. That's the year '95 that Fremont went to the state. So Fremont was number 2. We were number 1. And ended up getting upset to a team that we beat the first game of the season by 30. We got upset in the first round in the NorCal playoffs. So it was a learning experience, man. Got to go to Alaska and play against Rasheed Wallace and his groups, and got to go to Florida and play against Chauncey Billups and all those teams. So, I mean, it was good. I really enjoyed that experience.
Man, when Brandon was on the show, he spoke about his experience at St. Joe's that year, and he felt it was kind of favoritism at the guard position, and he was kind of unhappy there because he felt the favoritism was there with the other guard. Did you see any of that, or did that happen with you? Or was it just too much talent and coach was trying to balance out?
Well, Brandon is a different breed. Always has been, and that's what had a certain type of cockiness to him, where he felt like he was better and walked like he was better and talked like he was better than anyone, and you need that where we came from, and so. The guard that was in front of him, Timon Smalls, he was an all-league guy there before we all came, and he was actually the best player on the team before we all got there. And so, do I think it was an equal shot? No, I don't think it was equal. But you know how I go. Politics plays a thing in everything we do in life.
Absolutely. So when after that sophomore year is over and guys are transferring out, Brandon goes to De La Salle. Did Big Mike go to De La Salle with him?
Yeah. So after our last game against Merced that we lost, like we were so much of a tight knit, man. Like Mr. Payton was kind of like my second father. I kind of grew up with him. Kind of saved my life in ways, and so. It was kind of like, wherever he rolled, whatever he say is kind of like what happened. I mean, he picked me up from school every day, took us home. We didn't have money or food. He took care of us. Like, I mean, he was my father. And so, at the end of the day, we lost that game and we was in the locker room. I'll never forget. And coach had probably heard the tweaks about, people leaving and what they were going to do. And, at that time, Brandon was the only one that kind of manned up and say, I'm out, because I think he was just fed up. In my situation, man, I led the team in scoring as a sophomore. I was first team all league as a sophomore. I was second in rebound as a sophomore. Um, and so if you really think about it, I really had no reason to go. But my foundation was the Paytons. Mr. Payton was my foundation, and he was kind of the person basketball wise from seventh grade all the way up to high school that I kind of leaned on for moral and knowledge and just things that I needed. And so I kind of felt like if I was to stay, I would lose that. And so, I also decided to leave. So yeah, Big Mike left and went to De La Salle. Rest in peace, my another brother that grew up together. Brandon went to De La Salle. Our starting point guard that year, Demarie Wynn. He was really good as well. He transferred and went to De La Salle, and then I decided to go to Fremont.
No,
Why didn't you go to De La Salle with them?
That's what I was about to say.
At that point, we're older. My name was kind of already established. It was kind. I really kind of thought about it. It was times when Mr. Payton came by and talked to my mom about it. But that then and there, the biggest thing was, well, how would I get to school? It's not like Alameda where I could hop on a bus and catch the 54 down at the bar station and then catch the bus from the bar to Alameda. This was Concord. So the thing was, well, Brandon can, he knows he's gonna have a car, and he'll be able junior year be able to pick you guys up and take you. And so my mom just really wasn't sold on that idea and too secure and safe with it. So that's the reason why I didn't go there. So that's the reason why I ended up going to Fremont.
Man, so when you get to Fremont that year, you stepped into the OEL. Now we hear OEL talk. You lead the OEL in scoring your first year there. Did you guys win the lead as well? Y'all won the lead your first year?
No, so the year I came, which was '96, they had just came off that '95 year that had Frank Knight and Joey Grissom and Calvin Criddle and Zarek Payton and Jermaine Wilson and Lefty and all these guys, Charles Austin. And so they came off the year where it was, where they came off a state championship appearance. And so they hadn't lost in 2 years. So basically, they only returned, if I'm not mistaken, my boy Trevor Carson was the only returner from that team. And so coming there, it was me and DeAndre Petit transferred in from San Leandro. My boy Elliot Marshall came down from Skyline. We picked up Dewey Hale from San Lorenzo. Josh Shavies and Marquise Williams were ninth graders at Bret Hart. So we were a young team and no OEL experience, but Trevor, who didn't play a lot on that '95 team. So coming in, everyone still looked at it as Fremont, like AU programs. No matter what, the soldiers is the soldiers. No matter what, Splash City, and forth. So coming in, you got to take on that responsibility and understand the hype and the things that you're getting into. So when we got there, we won our first OAL game, which was against McClymonds, who was the league favorites. They had Will Levy and Doug Gutierrez and all this and that. So we played them the first game in OAL. That, in my experience, was something I never experienced before. Like 3:30 games at 3:00, the gym is packed. We ran out of back locker room, bumping J Dub. People are going crazy. This is at 3:20. So I'm like, man, like everyone's been telling me about this. Like I never before that. I don't think I ever went to an OEL game. It was just crazy. So coming in, and it's crazy because I don't know if it was nerves or what, but I got the flu earlier that day, and so I had the flu and played through it. And we ended up beating McClymonds, and I ended up having 29 and 15 with the flu. So, it was business as usual.
Wait. You scored 29 against Levy?
Yeah. I had 29 in the first game on OEL against Levy and Tuck. So there's Twin Towers down there. So, and if anybody needs, I got the articles to prove it. If anybody want to kind of justify that, but now it was my first OEL game at Fremont. It was packed against Mac. They were favorites, and we got it done.
Yeah, because Levy always say you did well against the other OEL schools, but you had a hard time with the Twin Towers. But obviously that's
Nah,
not
that's
true.
look, Will's my guy, man. I got much respect for Will and Tuck and all the OEL players, but at the same time, my junior year was different. It didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter if it's Tuck. It didn't matter if it was Levy. It didn't matter who it was. They all got it. I mean, I averaged 26 and a half a game my junior year, so they all got it.
What was it about you? Like, how did you do it? Because OEL is more like if you lead the league in scoring, you're like an athletic high flyer type, a jump shot type. But you're more of a below the rim type dude. So how was you able to do all that?
I mean, I was smarter. I was pretty skilled. I was fearless. I studied, like I watched the game a lot. I watched, my favorite player back then was Charles Barkley and Adrian Dantley. So I kind of just watched. I had quick release around the basket. I just had a knack for scoring. Like I can like 15 feet and in. Like that was just my home. And so playing in AAU back then, playing against the Lamar Odoms and the Tracy McGrady's and the Ron Artests and the Shane Battier's throughout those springs and summers, coming back to OAL and doing my thing against them, it was kind of like, well, this is nothing. It wasn't no 7'10", it wasn't no 7-footers, and everyone besides Levy and Tuck was, either my size or smaller, and so I kind of had my way with everybody, you know, that year.
Did
Hey,
you feel
So we ended
pressure?
up finishing. We ended up finishing. I think we finished third. Oakland High beat us
Of
both
course they did.
times. They cut the streak. I guess they had a streak of Fremont had a streak of winning like 22 straight games, league games in a row. We won the first two, and before that they was 10-0, 10-0. So Oakland High came. I'll never forget. It was a strike. I think it was time school was striking. It came, and we was playing on Valentine's Day, and they beat us at the house on Valentine's Day, and then they beat us at Oakland High. But they all were great games. So Oakland High probably did the best. And if you ask, they did the best against me. Like they held me to like 16 points, and so that was a success for them.
Held you to 16. I think I averaged 16 my senior year, and I was juiced.
hey, that McClymonds game being your welcome to the OL moment. What other game were you excited to like? What other games got you excited? What other teams got you excited to go play in the OL outside of McClymonds being that welcome to the OL moment?
McClymonds and Oakland High. Oakland High was really exciting because those guys talked a lot of mess. Marshawn Ferris. I went to school with Pocky Way. He was a close friend of mine. Marco Colston, Ed Wiley. Those guys talked a lot of mess. So going to go and play against them in my junior year was exciting because I know what was coming. And so you had to be prepared. Freddie Morris was a hell of a coach. He had different schemes and stuff that he ran against me, boxing one, triangle and two. So that was more of a game where you had to mentally be ready. McClymonds was more of a game that you had to physically be ready. And so those were probably the two teams that I looked forward to the most playing. And so those was my two moments.
When we talked to Frank Knight and asked him about Clint, he was talking about how crazy he was, making them jog all the way up High Street and all that. You playing for Frank Laporte. You played for Frank Laporte, right? He was at St. John's.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
playing for Clint. What's like kind of like the similarities and differences, and was Clint like crazy when you got there?
The similarities were they both loved to win, and they both had respect from their players. Laporte, because they were like night and day. Laporte was more soft spoken because he was an older guy. He was more soft spoken, but he knew how to get his point across. Where Clint was more hard nosed, in your face, rah 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 type of guy. But he coached just like the type of person he was. And for some of us coming from where we came from, we needed that. But he always would have your back though. Like no matter what gym we went to, no matter who we played against, if something jump off, he's always in the front of the line. He's always pushing us, motivating us. And he knew basketball. And so those would be the similarities and the differences between the two. Personality wise, they were like night and day. But when it came to the game of basketball, they both understood how to win.
Hey, but when you after y'all junior year, y'all didn't make the OAL finals. What was Clint like? What was Clint's speech to y'all?
Well, it was tough because we lost that's when they only took 3 teams, and Oakland High was the number 1 seed. So we played McClymonds, and we had already split with them. We put them at Mary College, and it was a grind out. I think the final score was probably like 35-32 or something like that. And so it was kind of heartbreaking. So basically, his biggest thing was, everyone was coming back. His biggest thing was, let's come back and win everything. Let's not sit here and, have this feeling again next year. Let's come back and beat the brakes off of everybody. And that's kind of what we did.
But y'all did come back. Let's talk about that. Senior year, y'all come back, and now y'all are loaded. Now y'all loaded. You guys got it was Marcus Malone there your senior year.
Yeah, so Marcus Malone came over my senior year. Um, Eric Rosby came over my senior year. Um, those was probably the two biggest transfers that we had. You still had DeAndre, you still had myself, Josh Shavies, and Marquise Williams are now in high school. Trevor Carson's still there. So basically, it was the addition of Eric Rosby, and Elliot Marshall was still there. So basically, it was the addition of Eric Rosby and Marcus Malone.
How did y'all do that year?
Who that year we were really really good, man. We I think we ended up in second in Northern California behind St. Joe's. We won the OAL. We had some tough battles with Skyline. They were good. We split with them. I think that was the only team that we lost to. It was the only team that we lost to that year in OAL. So we split with Skyline. Ended up beating Mac. Mac got us the first game at the Henry J, and then we came back and we got Mac in the finals. And then we kind of went through the gauntlet of the NorCals. We beat at Laney. We played Kenny Walls and them. Kenny Walls and his brother. And we beat them, and then we went on to beat team from Modesto, and then we had the showdown where we played St. Joe's at Arco Arena to go to the state championship.
How was that? Going back against your old school. Now this is what 97. So
97.
97, yeah.
So Ray
Yeah,
Young was
97.
a junior. So this is the first trip of their back-to-back.
Yeah, this is the first trip. Ray Young was a junior. They had Brandon Ferguson, who was a sophomore. They had another one good friend of mine, Adrian McCullough, was a point guard. Sean Fulcher, Andre Brewer. They were loaded. Renee Jocks, Nate Marassi. They were loaded. And so this was what everyone wanted to see. It was a hyped in the paper. It's me going back and playing at St. Joe's, and it was one of the best experience probably I've ever had, being able to do that and playing in Arco Arena on an opportunity to get back to the state championship. I mean, it was a hell of a game, and we went back and forth, and they ended up getting us in the 12th round at the end. Then they beat us by like 3 or 4, and so it was good though, man. It was fun. Didn't want to end that way. We would love to have went back and play Crenshaw in the state championship, but to get that far, where we came from the year before and being able to come all the way back with, it was an accomplishment for us as well as everyone on that, everyone in our area.
Hey, one of the underrated teams that we don't talk about on this show enough is that Skyline '97 team that you just spoke on, that split with you guys 1-on-1. That Skyline team was underrated, but they was more of a team with Jabari Gilbert, Dexter, John Tar, right? They don't get enough pub because they didn't have the superstar names as everyone else, but that was an underrated team right there.
No doubt. I mean, they had Jabari Gilbert. They had Marcus Taylor. We went to the middle school together. We played on that 8th grade. Marcus Taylor played on our 8th grade team that we went 8-0. John Tar Coleman, Dexter Amy, Lil Rock. Yeah, they were really, like you said, because it was Skyline and didn't really have representation. They really didn't get all of the recognition that they probably deserved. But that was a hell of a team, though.
No doubt. They had Bernard, but was it Bernard Beard on that team too?
Yep. Bernard was a monster, man. He was on that team, and between him, Jabari, and John Tar, man, they got the buckets, and Dexter and Marcus Taylor kind of ran the show. So It was a good group.
There you go, Skyline. We gave you some love on the hoops topic.
Man, but Skyline's a football school. They better,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
got, they
they're
got
good in hoop like every 10 years or
they're
something.
a football school. They're a football school. So, Jules, we asked this question a lot on the rec center, man. Name a player that when you came to the OEL, man, you felt like, was an underrated player, and then give us someone that you felt was like kind of overrated. Was not even that they were overrated where they were weak, but where they got more hype than they deserved.
Well, coming to OEL, I didn't really know too many of them, and so after playing a season and going through the gauntlet and playing them all, and newspaper articles and hearing the buzz around town about different players coming in. At the end of the season, the two most underrated players to me was Ed Wiley and Steve Morant. Ed Wiley was at Oakland High. Steve Morant was at McClymonds. I don't think they got the due that they deserve because they were on teams that were loaded and they were the point guards. And at the end of the day, how it goes. If you ain't scoring the baskets or getting the ball, you over to what kind of happened with those. When they go overrated, I mean, I ain't gonna say overrated, but one player that I thought was gonna get more by hearing the hype, and I didn't really get too much out of him was Doug Kateris, that came from Berkeley High to McClymonds, and he was, I heard he was really hyped up and good at Berkeley High, but when he came to the OEL, he kind of just blended in.
I've heard that name before. That name came up by a
Julio.
different guest that said the same thing. Now the Ed Wally name that's come up as an underrated player quite a few times. I never heard anyone say Steve was underrated, and I always put Steve pretty high. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that people thought that he didn't get his just due. But the Ed Wally name, and I want to ask you, like, why do you, other than he didn't score and he was surrounded by Marshawn and Ray Holden, guys that got more publicity, but did he take more of a back seat, or why didn't Ed really get more shine?
I mean, Ed is just a cool dude, man. If you know his personality, he really low key and he's really kind of like, he gave me my nickname, the Monster. That's what he used to call me in OAL, is the Monster. The Monster. He's a really cool dude. I don't think, his style of play wasn't flashy at all. He was a big point guard. He wasn't quick. He wasn't fast. He wasn't super athletic, but he was probably one of the most efficient guards that I've seen in high school in a long, long time in our area. He made the right play, made the right pass. It's someone that if you had to go pick a point guard and you want to play with, the way that I scored the ball, I would have loved playing with Ed Wiley. Like I said, he was good, man. He was really good.
Hey, but another player I feel was underrated. That should have got a lot more hype than what they got on the basketball court was DeAndre, your point guard.
Yeah, DeAndre was really good too. I mean, DeAndre was a tough two-sport athlete, three-sport athlete. Um, you know, tough nose, hard nosed. Because I don't think he got as much publicity as he should have got as well. But Dre was really good, man. That's my dude, man. He's a really good dude. And also, there's a guy by the name of Ben Hill that was probably, Ben Hill was no joke. I mean, when you talk about the best guards in that 96 class, the best players in that 96 class, if I had to start a team as a guard, I'm going to go get Ben Hill. He was at Castlemont, so they didn't really win a lot. They didn't really travel to those big tournaments. But Ben Hill was a monster.
So while we're on this subject, you can't name anybody from Fremont. What's your OAL starting five from the years you played in the OAL?
From the years I played in the OAL, my starting five would be Ben Hill, Ed Wiley, Will Levy. Do I add myself?
No Fremont.
Yeah, you
no
had
Fremont
yourself.
players.
Oh no, not even yourself, Ken.
No. I want to see who else was good.
So it would be Ben Hill, Ed Wiley, Marshawn Ferris, Will Levy, and oh, that last spot. I would probably go with back then Jerome Stewart or Jamel Morrow.
I wish you wouldn't have said Jamil. I was going to get on low. No tech players.
No,
We
those
came
were
after
probably
this. We
two
got our
top.
run after that, Ken. Our run was after that.
Hey, that was one of the gyms I love to play at. It was Tech. I mean, they weren't that good, but they gonna pack it out both sides. Tech was a fun place to play at. But that would probably be my five right there, 5.5. Between Jamel and Jerome because they were both the same type of players.
I had some of my best games at Tech, for sure.
We just gonna keep running with that, Ken. Ken
I like to beat up on Tech a little bit.
Hey, Jules, what was your recruiting like after your junior and senior year?
Well, that's the one thing about Clint. Like he never really, he wasn't a communicator. And after my junior year, I led the OA on scoring. I had a hell of an AAU season, and the letters. I had some stuff here and there, but it wasn't really like I thought it should be. I mean, then one day our gym supervisor, Mr. Wines, never forget, came in and brought me a big green garbage bag of letters that I never got from every school in the West Coast, schools across the country. And so, at that particular time, I had Nebraska, I had Washington, I had Lower Marymount, I had Cal, I had a couple other schools on the West Coast, but my grades was an issue, and so that's kind of what held me back. But at the end, I ended up passing my SAT, and I ended up going to University of Washington. But I had to go to summer school. That's when Coach Bob Bender was a coach there, and I went there for the summer and ended up, getting into some trouble. And so after that, I got sent home, and then I ended up going to DVC from there.
I feel like that's the only knock on Clint. Like, despite all the success that Fremont had, very few people actually went on to play in college and actually, and I think Frank is the only one that really finished. Am I wrong? I mean, unless you want to count Josh and Fred, but that was football.
Well, Frank, went, and then Calvin Criddle ended up going, but he went the JC route. Robert Grissom ended up going. He went the JC route. But I think that's always been the biggest knock is that, the teams and the players he had, he should have had 4 or 5 Division I's every year from 94, 93, all the way until, 99. I mean, it was loaded. I mean, it was like that was the Tech of our era, with Leon and them. And what I've learned is like every 4 or 5 years, there's a school that goes on a run.
Right.
And from 93, 92, to 92, 93 until 99, Fremont was that run.
Absolutely.
Hey, what was the environment like structurally coming from St. Joe's to Fremont? Like the study hall, the working out. How was that environment?
School wise, it was a piece of cake. I mean, I went from St. Joe's barely being eligible, 2.1, 2.2 to Fremont where I was getting 3.0. So academically, it was easy. Basketball wise, it's basketball, man. No matter where you go, like I said, Clint was pretty structured. So the structure didn't, change. What changed was the outside distractions. The people around you change. At St. Joe's, I'm around people who, going to class and trying to get 4.0s, where at Fremont, I'm around people who, running their blocks and D-boys and cats that, that's going to have your back. And, so it was a different environment. It was just, different when it came to the people that you were surrounded by. But basketball-wise, it was just hoop.
outside of St. Joe's, who was your other OEL like rival games you couldn't wait to play against?
McClymonds was always a rival game for the 2 years that I was there, just because of the competitive nature of Clint as well as the competitive nature of Coach Mo, and it was Mac. Mac and Fremont have always been the top dogs when it came to basketball in the '90s. You got East Oakland versus West Oakland. So every time we went there with the whole school. We had the Village, we had High Street, and that's when everyone came together. We had the '70s. We all gonna go, they all gonna come, and they gonna sit behind our bench. And then you got West Oakland with the Bottoms and Ghost Town, and they gonna sit behind their bench. And it is what it is. So that was probably the most exciting and the biggest rivalry was Fremont and Mac.
That's how I got introduced to the OAL because all my family went to Mac, so my dad would take me to the Mac games. My first game I went to was Mac against Fremont, and and then I was coming from Head Royce, so at Head Royce when the visiting team shooting free throws, you got to be quiet. If the crowd make noise, that's a technical. So now imagine going from that to a game at Mac against Fremont. Man, I was like, I gotta have this. So I think the most vivid memory I have is seeing like E. Rosby hit a 3-pointer, and he was just like, ah, and I was like, oh my god, I need this. And that was my introduction to the OAL.
Hey, that
Yeah, man,
97
lots of fun.
that 97 team you own, like you said, that addition to Eric Rosby coming in from Emory was a game changer because you had added Rosby with Trevor Carson. Them was two high flyers right there. That make a point guard
Yeah,
top easy.
yeah, they had him. I mean, we were big too. We had, Rosby was 6'7". Trevor was 6'7". Josh Shavy was 6'6", 6'7". I was 6'4". Then Elliot Marshall, they used to call him the Birdman. He was a super high flyer. So yeah, it was really exciting at our games, man. We had a lot. It was really exciting when we took the floor. It was a movie.
So where do you think your 90, 96, 97, where do you think those teams rank with the 95s, the 98s, the 99s? Personally, 98 is the best to me, personally. I don't know where Lowe's opinion is on that, but where do you rank the
Um,
Fremont team?
Mine is the 95 team.
Over 98?
Well, I'm gonna break it down to you because I was there and I've seen it. And I played against those guys, and so when you do those teams like that, you kind of got to take out the X factors if they're playing on both of those groups. Because '97, I had a younger Josh Shavies, and '99 they had the senior Josh Shavies.
That's what he
'98
called.
they had a senior Marcus Malone, and in '97, I had a junior Marcus Malone. So to keep a long story short, though, if I had to rank the groups, I would probably say '95 was the best, just because they were all seniors. Um, they were physical. They were big. They were tough. Talent. They went 8, 9 deep. I would probably say that if we had to play them, they would probably get us by about 10. Their guards were big. And so if I had to rank them, it would be 95, 97, 99, 98.
Ooh, I respect
The
the
98 team,
95 argument. 98 was tough.
the 98 team was cool. But it may be because they didn't have star power. Armand came late, in and out. Malone was the only kind of guy that was a killer. Everybody else it's kind of like the Miami Heat. You have Jimmy Butler, then you got everybody else. But they play really, really well as a team.
Absolutely.
And so when it came to talent wise, they were probably not as talented as the other three teams that I had said, but they probably may have been a better team than all of them.
I think it was Armand. I think it was Armand that we talked to, And he was just saying that 98 team chemistry, like they were all best friends on and off the court. But now that could have been the case for the other teams as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we were
I don't
close. I mean,
know.
our 97 team was close. I mean, we all hung out. You know, it wasn't no one that didn't like each other. We hung out at lunchtime. You know, we hung out after school. You know, we hooked up with the same girls. So it wasn't like, you know, we all were cool and, you know, we all hung out. And I think that was just the atmosphere now when you know, me working in Oakland Unified School District now and seeing sports and me being involved in it back when I did. The difference is sports ran the school. Sports was the school culture at all these schools. You either had a football culture, you had a basketball culture, you had a baseball culture. So sports really ran the school, and so like now, you know, nothing runs the school. And now no one cares. But back then, you know, sports kind of ran the school. So if you know, in our case, our football team and basketball team was good, and so that was the culture of the school. Everyone kind of flocked to the football and basketball players, and we kind of called the shots, and we basically kind of ran the school with all the D boys around us. So that's kind of how it used to be back in the day.
Interesting.
Let,
Okay.
let me read some, let me read something off to you real quick. I'm going into our top 25 list. We got Jules, OEL leading scorer, junior year, two-time OEL, all OEL, the only junior on the OEL list, first team OEL your senior year, led scoring at St. Joe's your sophomore year, all-state junior and senior year, Street Smith All-American your senior year, first team all best of the best your junior and senior year, first team all Metro your senior year.
That sounds about right.
Them are some accomplishments. Them are some accomplishments. Top 25 list. Adding Jules Milstead on the list. Who would you take off the list? Jules Milstead.
Man, you got to understand, man. I understand how lists are made. I now run a AAU organization. I've been doing it for the past 5-6 years, helping kids, and so you know I think everything is politically correct in one way or another, and everything is opinion based. I mean, I can't really be mad at Ken if he didn't think I deserve to be on the top 25 list because you know when I was putting up 26 a game, he probably was playing kickball. So he didn't really get a chance. He probably didn't really get a chance to see all the stuff that I did because he was younger. And, you know, I guess I was the flashiest. Like if you ask me about all those accomplishments and I look at my son who's exactly the same way where, you know, not flashy. I wasn't dunking the ball like that. I mean, I could dunk, but it wasn't like I was a high flyer. But I was just productive and I just had a certain mindset and I had a certain type of confidence in myself. And I just feared no one. And so, you know, I can't say who I would take off and who I would leave on because at every point in time, everyone was good in their era. And, you know, but there is some cats. It's no way that I feel like I shouldn't be on the top 25 just because of my resume and because of, you know, what I've done and things that I've done and the people I've done it to. And if, you know, I hear the Marshawn's and I heard the Will Levy's and I heard the Del Tuckers and, you know, people that played in my era. And, you know, we all are a type of people where, you know, we're going to give everyone they props, but we're going to make sure that our props is still the highest because it ain't better than me. You know what I'm saying? And so I guarantee you, if you was to go back and I heard some of them, go back and ask those guys, you know, should Jules Milstead be on that top 25? They'll say no doubt.
It was a no doubt.
It wasn't no doubt.
And after looking at the resume, it was a Rex Center snub. After you saw it, I missed the St. Joe's Jules. So I didn't know you did it for a career. So it was
Yeah, I
like,
did
yeah, we kind of snubbed Jules on that one. That wasn't no argument. Like, snubbed you on that one. You snubbed Brandon Payton as an honorable mention because Brandon Payton's resume was there as well. So we snubbed Brandon Payton and not being in the top 25 as well.
But here's the thing. And I'm going to say this and continue to say it. I'm not saying none of them dudes wasn't good. Like I grew up Yes, I was playing kickball, even though I was really good at kickball. I did see Jules. I did see Jules play quite a bit. I know exactly who Jules Milstead is. Now, there were some guys like Brandon Payton. I don't think I ever saw Brandon Payton play in person ever. So there are some guys I didn't see play, but I'm very familiar with Jules. Now, here's my thing. There's only 25 spots. Now, we could say we snubbed Jules, and that's fine. But then you still got Quentin Thomas, Armando Surratt, Brandon Payton, Frank Alak. Like, there's so many guys, but there's only 25 spots. So we can't say we snubbed everybody and everybody should be on. Then it's a top 50. It's not a top 25. So that's when the question arises. If you're on, we gotta take people. Like if we're gonna say we snubbed 3 people, then that means we gotta take 3 off. Otherwise, that's a top 28.
Well,
I also think I for sure think Quentin Thomas should have been on the top 20. Like I grew up watching Q. Q was different. You know, he goes into that Ed Wiley type of player. Honestly, they remind me a lot of each other. Tall, slender PGs that was surrounded around really good players and kind of was a catalyst of it all. But also seen Q in AAU, and I seen what he did when he had to be the guy because I coached AAU back then as well, and so you know. I definitely think Q should have been on the top 25 list. But like you said, I mean, you know, you got some good guys that's on that list as well. But everything is basically opinion based, and you know, I can't be mad because your opinion is different than mine. You know, this is you guys' show. You know, if it was 2 other people's show, their top 25 lists would be different than yours. And so that's, you know, it is what it is, man. But it's great that you guys are doing something like this, even because, you know, as black things that's going on in the world today, man, and 2 black young brothers as yourselves, and you know, I mean, this is big, man. And like, you know, we need this. We needed this 10 years ago. So, you know, just keep doing what y'all doing on that end.
And then on a even bigger note, man, look, my name wasn't even brought up. So to even be in the discussion is a huge honor, especially we talking about the Bay Area during this time span. It's like, dude, to even have your name mentioned as like, yeah, he has a dope argument. Because some people was talking to me like, oh, how I didn't make the hell. I'm like, bro, you wasn't even first team all OAL. Like, how you gonna be on the top 25 list? You're not even all league. So, you know, I do give you I definitely say you cannot tell an OAL or a Bay Area story in the 90s without talking about Jules Milstead. I will say that.
hey, so Jude, let's fast forward here. Man, what made you go into coaching AAU and then starting your own AAU program?
Well, so after DVC, I went to DVC because of my situation. And there I was, you know, all state and, you know, we made it to the Final Four. And, you know, I had all these different, you know, scholarship offers out of there. And my second year there, I had a son. And so when I had my son, I was going to be off to go to school in Washington, in Western State in Colorado. I accepted a scholarship to go play in Colorado, and you know I got there first couple of weeks, and you know my dad hit me and said, "Hey man, you know I understand what you're trying to do. I understand you trying to live your dream, and you're trying to play basketball, but you got to come back and take care of your kid." And so I ended up leaving there, coming back, taking care of my son. From there, I met, you know, hooked up with one of my mentors, Melvin Landry, who runs the Oakland Rebels. And at that time, he was a director of Park and Rec for the city of Oakland. And so gave my first job working at Park and Rec at a rec center. I was working at Westlake. I was doing some after school program at Westlake. I'll never forget it. That was the first little school team that I started coaching. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, hey, man, you know, I coach kind of like how I play, you know, real tough nose and, you know, encouraging. And it was a lot of fun. And so from there, you know, he asked me, do I want to coach the Rebels? And I was like, sure, you know, I'll do it. So he gave me a high school team to start off with. So I was with the Rebels for about 6 years. And then I ended up getting an opportunity to be with the Oakland Soldiers. I used to play for the Soldiers when I was in high school. And so the guy that was running the Soldier at the time, Calvin Andrews, gave me a call and asked me if I want to come over there. They were sponsored by Adidas. They was playing in all the Adidas events. So I went over there. I was there for 10 years. I started the first youth soldier program And through that time with the Soldiers, I won a Peace Jam. I had Aaron Gordon and Stanley Johnson and Jabari Bird, and then I coached Ivan Rapp. I've had Dominic Artis, Brandon Ashley, a lot of high level pros, Will Cherry, and so I spent a lot of time over there, and I learned a lot, and I was able to help a lot of kids get to college and even get an opportunity to graduate from college, and so. Then I got an opportunity when I was probably about 5 years ago. I got a call from a guy from Under Armour who was involved with Steph Curry, and he had been hearing about all the things that I've been doing in the community, all the stuff I've been doing when it came to basketball, and wanted to know Steph Curry was thinking about starting a program in the Bay Area, and he wanted to know would that be something I'd be interested in doing. And so I was like, yeah, what does it all entail? So he flew down and met with me. And, after that, I ended up getting a contract with Under Armour and started my own team, which was Splash City. I think it was probably 5 years ago. And my first group I had was my son's group. My son was playing with the Soldiers, and he decided to come over and play with me. And at that time, I had 9 kids. And we ended up winning, making it into the Under Armour championship and Vegas championship, and all the 9 kids, all 9 went to Division One.
That's super impressive.
That's huge. That's huge. To do it in your first year, make it that far. But how hard has it been to keep them type of players circulating through the program, after they age out?
Well, when you're dealing with youth and basketball, especially at an early age, the hardest part is the parents, especially now. Back then, when I played, it wasn't social media. It wasn't YouTube. It wasn't, Fortnite. I had a pager. I couldn't talk on the phone after 10 o'clock. I caught the bus to school. That's kind of how it worked. And so we stayed at the parks and the rec centers, and we played football outside. We ate pea grass. I mean, this is what we did. We was kids. Mom's like, get out the house. I mean, we couldn't stay in the house because there was nothing in the house to do. So we was riding bikes, doorbell ditch. We did all type of stuff, tag. Nowadays, man, there's so much stuff that these kids can just sit in the house and do that they don't even get a chance to go outside and get a chance to understand that there's life after the screen. And so the biggest part is social media, as well as the parents. And it's so many AAU teams now. Back then, it wasn't a lot. Even 5 years ago when I started Splash City, I mean, between 5 years ago and now, it's probably the 10 AAU teams in our area. And so my name pretty much speaks for itself and what I've done and my development. And I mean, Lo, you've been, you've seen the stuff that we do with your kid and kind of how I operate. And, it's just business with me, man. I'm trying to get kids better. I work with kids. A lot of these people, directors, coaches, like they got a job outside of working with kids. I've been working with kids for the past 15 years through Oakland Unified School District, through mentoring program, through case management. That's kind of what I've done. And so kids is all I know. So when I look that parent in the face or I look that kid in the face, it's because whatever I say is coming real because that's all I know how to be. And so, that's a challenging thing. At the end of the day, man, kids are going to be kids. There's going to be 100 kids out here. You can always find kids that want to come and be a part of your program. And so, it's been fun, though, man. I enjoy it. I don't no longer have a horse in the race because my kid is gone and been gone. And so for me to continue to do this, it has to be because I'm passionate and I love doing it, not because I have any incentives in doing it.
Man, one of the things as a youth football coach, what I see a lot is the youth transfer portal. And I think that comes from the parents with this whole youth transfer portal. But one of the things I tell my son in particular, like where we start at is where we going to finish at. So when I was young, playing Oakland Bay Roof, I played for one team. I tell my son, you start at Splash City, we going to finish at Splash City. When you 16, you 17, you still going to be playing at Splash City. And I think the parents have parents in AAU with some I wouldn't want to deal with, like with football. Football, I got 22 spots I can play. Basketball, you only got 5. And you hear a lot about the parents want to compete with such and such who got a name for themselves and things like that. So I commend you, man, on being able to deal with the parents from that standpoint.
No, you're right, man. It's tough. When I grew up, I mean, I played NorCal from sixth grade until we stopped at 10th grade, and then from there I played Soldiers, my 11th grade year, and some Oakland Rebels. So I was the same way. But the thing is loyalty, and there's no loyalty in youth sports anymore. One of my slogans on the back of my shirt says "Stay loyal," because parents, you too hard on my kid, and why are you yelling at my kid? And at the end of the day, some of these old parents need to look themselves in the mirror and be more responsible as a parent. And I don't like, my biggest thing is I tell parents, I don't tell you how to parent, you can't tell me how to coach. If you want your son to be here, then you got to trust me. And so, I would never do anything wrong. I'm going to push your kid to the fullest, maybe push your kid more than you push your own kid. And if this isn't what you're looking for, then maybe you need to find another program. And that's just me. That's kind of how I've been, and that's kind of how I go at it. And, like I said, Lo, you've been in my practices. You see how I get at kids. You see how I talk to kids. It's just real coming from me. That's just kind of how I am, because that's how Mr. Payton and Bill Green were to me when I was growing up.
Man, I was just thinking, can you imagine parents of our day right now with kids playing for Mr. Payton, Bill Green, Clint Williams, Coach Mack and Jeff and Babe Ruth? Like, man, Steve Webster, no way.
Nah, no way, man. No way, because we're raised different. I tell people now that in the schools I work in, we can't expect these kids nowadays to respect teachers and principals, because these kids nowadays don't even respect their own parents. And so that's where it starts. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. I mean, it starts with the parents with these kids. If you set the foundation, like I'm 41 years old, and to this day I would never raise my voice at my mom. Haven't. Of course she gets on my nerves at times. Instead of me raising my voice and getting smart, okay, mom, I'll call you back. But that's just kind of how I am. I never curse on my mom or raise my voice on my mom, and I'm 41 years old, and so. But I was raised that way. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Yes, sir, no, sir. Because my parents are from the South. And to this day, when I go, I'm the same way. And so these kids nowadays, these parents nowadays, they try to find an easy way out because they don't want to raise their own kids. So they'll push them off to the coaches, to the teachers, to the principals. You guys handle it. No, we can't handle it because it's easy to start from you.
Yeah, I can't play for a coach that's not going to push me or yell at me or not try to get the best out of me. I can't. I'm the type of player, I don't want anything just handed to me.
So one of the
Nowadays,
things as a parent, but a football coach, as a parent in basketball, I'm a parent, I'm hands off. So it's like, hey, when Jules get in Prince's face and he like, hey, that's some soft. You being soft. I'm not babying him. I'm going to reiterate what Jules said when we leave. You was being hella soft, right? So you need some type of coaches that's going to push your same type of agenda that you want to push for your kid as well. And like, this is why we rocking with Jules, because I'm like, he hard nosed. I love the hard nosed because these kids got it too easy as it is, right? You get what I'm saying?
Especially the way we raising them as parents, because I do feel like we have our kids financially in better situations than when we were raised. So they don't even go, like you said, they not eating pea grass, they not drinking water out the water hose. They, you know what I'm saying, they not, man, we was playing strikeouts with lemons and oranges on the tree, you know what I'm saying? And you just find a branch, so I feel like our kids are not getting that adversity at home, which is a good thing. But we got to place some type of adversity, some type of challenge somewhere, and that's where sports and coaching can come in. And I feel like a lot of parents are hindering them from that part.
I agree.
So Jules, with AAU, what are some of the challenges? I'm not even the challenge, the changes you've seen AAU grow from in the last 10 years. Like, what was it like 10 years ago when you first started, and what is it like now? Just the overall concept of AAU basketball. Like, is it 100% necessary that kids need to play AAU? Because some kids back in the day growing up, all we played was like ONBL, and then you went to high school, played regularly ONBL high school. But like now it's like AAU is the culture for basketball.
I agree. I see the difference between 10 years ago and now is that you still had those things. You know, there even when I played, there's no more guy right. There's no more ONBL. I mean, it is, but it ain't like it used to be because AAU wasn't a big thing back then. So you only had a couple teams back when I played, which was the Rebels, Slam and Jam, and NorCal. And so you played in all these other extra, leagues around the town and different things to keep yourself going. Now, AAU is so publicized and the biggest thing going that, you don't hear about ONBL. You don't hear about the City League. You don't hear about, things of that sort. So I think because of social media and because of the push of AAU basketball, that it has taken over and it kind of has flooded out all those other leagues and things of sort. So now AAU is kind of, the last man standing.
Hey, what age was your son when you realized like, hey, we got something here? You like I remember reading about him a lot when he was at Monroe Catholic, and I'm like, that's Jules' son because it's not a common last name. You hear Milstead, that's got to be Jules' son. At what age were your son when you realized like, okay, we got something here?
Well, I tell people this all the time. It's a marathon, man. It's not a sprint. And so when my son was younger, he played for me, and I had to stop coaching him because I was so much of a competitor, and he wasn't ready for what I had to give. And so, it took him up until the sixth grade to even be able to dribble past half court. Like he used to get the ball and just give it to someone else. And I mean, he could play. He was probably the sixth, seventh best man on my team growing up, all the way up until about the seventh grade. Um, and so, but he always wanted to be around the game. Like he hung around me, and he sit there and he watch, and he used to fall asleep in Sports Center on or basketball game. That's all he did. He didn't play video games. He didn't watch cartoons. All he did was watch basketball. And so I kind of knew, like, I knew he was gonna hit a growth spurt. His mom is tall. I'm tall. He was a little, short, long, slender kid at the time, but he loved basketball. And so seventh grade came. We went to the nationals in Memphis, and he kind of had a coming out party, and he played really well, and he built his confidence. And so when the eighth grade came, he was ready for high school, and then ninth grade came along, and he came in as a freshman and started up a row and led them in scoring and 15 points a game and ended up taking them to the state championship as a freshman. So at that time, I knew that okay, this we may have something here.
Pro Catholic coming to the pick for you guys to go to school? Was it a Fremont handoff to Frank Knight because we have Frank Knight on the show as well, or did you guys weigh out the options of the other schools and decide to go to Monroe?
So it's to bring you back, when Frank Knight first got the job at Fremont, I coached with him. He came to me. I coached with him. I recruited all those players, top players. We kind of tag teaming and building that program up together. Monroe was the same thing. I was working in Alameda. He came to Alameda, him and Terry T, and was coaching with him at the time. And he said, "Man, I just got the job at Monroe, man." And at that time, man, it was nothing but Asians. They were 6-20 the year before, and he said, "Man, I need you to come, man, so we can turn this thing around. I can't do it without you." So, and then I'm pretty sure he knew my connections and he knew my link at that time. I was with the Soldiers and I was coaching a young team, and so I went over there, and our first year that we got there, I brought in Oscar Fred Armana, and that Rebel class. Um, Demore was in the eighth grade, and so at that time he was coming to all the Monroe games, and so I told him, I said, check this out, son. Even though I'm coaching at Monroe, if you want to go to O'Dowd, or if you want to go to Salesian, or if you want to go to um, Monroe, it's kind of up to you. I don't want me being at Monroe the reason that you come to Monroe. I want you to be able to go to where you feel, that where you want to go. So he weighed his options out. It came down to those three schools, and he ended up choosing to go to Monroe, which I think was probably one of the best decisions he made. I mean, he ended up being an all-time leading scorer in Monroe history. He scored over 2,300 points. He went to two state championships his freshman and senior year. He was 2-time, league MVP. All Northern California. I mean, he made the All-Decade team. And so,
Mm.
there's a great experience for a kid who, a lot like myself, we're not sexy. When you come into the gym, you're not saying, "Oh, man," but at the end of the game, you're like, "Damn, that nigga had 30," and that's just kind of how it happens, and that's just what it is. And so, but he's a hard worker, man, and he had, at the end of his AAU summer, he had, over 16, 17 Division I offers. He narrowed it down to a couple schools. He ended up going to Grand Canyon for 2 years, had a great experience with Dan Marley, learned a lot being on his own. I think that was the biggest thing is he was away from home and he grew up as a man. And so those 2 years was really, really good for him because he learned a lot. He went through some adversity, especially as a freshman. And then he came back even better and then, decided because Marley left and things that happened there that, he went to the transfer portal. And even then, I mean, he had 22 offers the first day he went to the portal. But he decided, Dad, I want to be with, kind of come close to home. I want to be with someone I trust and, narrowed it down and end up, choosing USF, which I think, with the coaching staff there and being back home and, just seeing everything that it's going to probably be one of the best decisions he ever made.
And then I saw a post recently, a post of yours. I think it was yours recently, where Coach Vinny McGee played a huge part in him going to USF. Were there any other? Because I know there's some other Bay Area assistant coaches around at the D1 level. Could it have been anyone else, or was that connection just too strong?
That connection, strong. I mean, I know Vinny. I coached Vinny when he was with the Soldiers. I know Vinny for a long time. When Vinny was in Northern Colorado, um, and I was coaching Splash City, he was always calling me up and, "Hey, Jules, man, what time y'all play, man? I need to come check out your players." So I always plugged him on that. But Damar is a workout guy. He wants to live in the gym, and I know Vinny's a workout guy, and he wants to live in the gym. They both were point guards. They both from Oakland, and honestly, it's a trust thing with my son, and you know, he felt like he could trust him. Even though he's the assistant coach, he felt like he could trust him, and so I think that played a huge part with Vinny McGee over there to help him make his decision to attend USF.
Hey, one of the big things I'm excited for. I'm not sure if you saw this on social media or not, Jules, but your son going back and playing against Grand Canyon. They got him on the schedule this fall. Damari Milstead, Jovan Blackshear Jr. It's a hype game. I hear caravans riding to Oakland, man. How you see that game going for y'all, man, for your son and the energy that's going to be in the environment.
I mean, hopefully the game happens. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. Me and Javon's dad go back since we were in high school. We played together. He was at Castlemont, Fremont. We when my son was there for the 2 years, man, Jay looked out for my son to make sure everything was okay with him and make sure he needed anything. He was always there. And little Jay played for me, AAU. I was his second team behind Pal that he played for when he was in the fourth, fifth grade. So I'm happy, man. Like I'm happy for the kids. I'm happy for these two young men that get able to live out their dream, play college basketball, because a lot of people don't get this opportunity. Is Amari excited? Yeah, I think he's excited. I think he would have been more excited if Marley would have still been there. But since Marley's not there, I think he's just excited to get back to Phoenix and play, and talking stick and in front of, the fans there. And, at the end of the day, I think he's going to say he's treating it as another game. But, deep down inside, you want to beat them, and you got certain type of mindset. So it should be a lot of fun.
And Oscar's still over there too, right? He hasn't graduated yet.
Yep, Oscar. Oscar set out a year, so this would be his senior year, and him and my son are best friends. I mean, Oscar come home, he stays over my house, when he comes out here. And so, like I said, he has a lot of people out there. There's still billboards out there with Damari on there, and people tweet now. We can't wait to see Damari back. So I think he left a really strong impression in Arizona, and it'll be a lot of fun being able to go back home.
Well, before we get out of here, we got to put you on the spot. Start, bench, cut. You ready?
Yeah.
Ben Hill. And we're gonna do a throwback version. Ben Hill, Steve Morant, and Wally.
Oh.
Now, before we get into this, out of those three names, and Wally actually watches the show, if that helps you make your choice.
Oh, start, bench, cut. Oh, that's tough, man. Start, bench, cut. I may have to. Out of those three, I probably would have to cut my boy Steve Morant, and that's my guy, and he gonna understand. So I would probably have to cut Steve Morant. Ben Hill and Ed Wiley. Ooh. Uh, because Ed is a team player and he ain't gonna trip, I'm gonna probably bring Ed off the bench and I'm gonna start Ben Hill.
Hey, Ed gonna be pissed.
Ed's my dude though, man. I love
man.
Ed.
Ed feel
And
like
Ed-
he's
and
straight
Ed-
overlooked. Like Ed feel like he be just ultimately disrespected.
I agree, and you could definitely know because I gave Ed the ultimate respect when I came on here and said he's the most underrated player in OAL that I played against and seen. But I think, like I said, if, Ed would accept his role. Let me put it that way. Ed, because I think Ed respects Ben Hill, so Ed would respect. Okay, that's Ben Hill. He's second leading scoring OAL. Behind me, he was second leading scoring OAL that year, my junior year, and he understood Ben Hill was Ben Hill, so he would respect that. Anybody else in front of him, he wouldn't respect it. So I would probably go Ben Hill, Ed Wiley, and then Steve Morant. He gonna come watch us play.
So I had a second
Hey,
one.
so-
I had a second one. And I think all of these are either. Yeah, these are all former teammates of yours, I believe. Brandon Payton, Adrian McCullough, DeAndre
Ah! Oh no,
Ooh.
you're not doing this to me.
and I think all three of them watched the show.
Oh my God. Oh. Man. Once again, so in this scenario, I feel like all these three guys respect each other.
Absolutely.
So, and they got the ultimate respect for each other. So we're talking about high school, right?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah. Man. I would start BP. Oh my, the Adrian and DeAndre, man, that's tough because they're so similar. They're both same type of players. They both was my guys. I've been to war with both of them. Man, can I plead the fifth on that one?
That's not the Jules
I mean, it's just so.
That's not the Jules that be in my DMs, man.
Okay. I would go. I would start BP. I would highest. I would bring AMAC off the bench, and then I would have to cut DeAndre, and it'll be tough. Come on, man, it'll be tough.
Hey,
Oh, that'll
Who
be
you got,
tough.
Lo? Who you got?
no. If you don't start BP, is he transferring?
Yeah. If I don't start BP, he gonna transfer and then because I didn't start. That's keto. That's just how BP operates.
Hey,
But I would start BP
BP
just because, though, like I said, BP would start though just because he's just the ultimate competitor, man, and one of the best. If I had to pick a all-time five, he would be one of those guys, man, because he's always played with a chip on his shoulder. He's always been the ultimate competitor. He's like that in life now as an adult. He hates to lose. We were like Kobe and Shaq when we played AAU together. Just a simple fact that we both had egos. We wasn't the best of friends because we both wanted to actually be better than the other. And so we learned through that, building our friendship up and being that kind of way. And so, yeah, but BP is my guy, man. So yeah, BP is BP. Everybody knows that.
Hey, we did this last week with E Cole, and your name was in the thing. Let's see what you say about the one we had with E Cole. Ken, I'm gonna let you ask him who we had on that list.
Oh, it slipped my mind. Remind me.
It was start bench cut. You had Josh Davies, Jules Milstead, and who was the third one,
I think it
Ken?
was Tuck. Was it Tuck?
And was it Tuck and D Tuck? What do you think E Cole said, Jules?
Oh man, E Cole, huh?
E Cole.
I know E Cole's a mad guy. I know he is. Um, and so I think E Cole probably went. But E Cole also got to be realistic with it. I don't know how realistic E Cole went. So if E Cole was realistic, he would have went. He would have went me. He would have went Tuck, and then he would have probably cut Josh Davies if he was realistic. But since him being a mad guy, I went D Tuck. Probably went myself, and he probably cut Josh Davies.
It didn't go
I
that
can't
way.
remember. Yeah, I was like, I don't
He,
think that's.
he went start Tuck. He went bench Josh and cut
Did he?
Jules. Hey,
Did he? I'm surprised
now,
at
now
that.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Because I told Lo, I
Because E
said,
because E Cope got a majority of those 29. And when I think he was
ooh.
guarding me, so he got majority, if not all of those 29. So that really kind of bothered me that he would. And then he got the 26 I put on him at Mac. So that really kind of bothered me that he would go that way.
Well, he's definitely a Mac guy, but see why we chose those three names because I know E. Kobe is cool with all three of y'all, like good friends.
well, E.
Yeah,
Cole said,
yeah. You know,
he said, what Josh are you getting? Are you getting 90? He said, are you getting 99 Josh and junior year Jules? Because he felt like the senior year, y'all team was heavily led by Marcus Malone and DeAndre Pertee, as opposed to what it was in your junior year.
yeah.
So
That's crazy for him to even. That's crazy for him to even say that. That's crazy for him to say that because I still was first team all league as a senior, and I wasn't first in OEO scoring. I was actually third. And so, hey, very well, like I said, man, everyone is opinion based. You know what I'm saying?
it's
But
all
at the end
opinion.
of the day,
History
yeah,
has a way of being different to different people.
yeah. At the end of the day, he wasn't a jewel stopper, so he got all those buckets.
Was it a jewel stopper in the OEL? I don't think it was a jewel stopper.
I've heard through
Nah,
the
it's not
grapevine.
too.
I've heard through the grapevine. Jules had a hard time against Tuck and Levy when they were
Nah, man.
together.
No, I told you it was 29 and 25 both times I played them. The hardest time, the one team that kind of slowed me down, like I said, was Oakland High because they boxing one me, they triangled into me. When people tried to go head up, it was a massacre.
Because what happened in the I think it was the playoff game with you and Mac. Yeah, because even Coach Mo talked about it, and I think they held you to like
Yeah, play
15 or
us.
something like that.
Yeah, they held us. I had 15 of the 32, so they held me to 15. They had
Hold on.
37.
It was
So
only
I mean, I
32
guess
in the whole game.
it was 37-32. So I guess when teams hold me to 15, 16
Oh,
back
wait,
then,
the
as you see,
final
that was an
score was
accomplishment.
37-32?
Yep, it's a low scoring game. 37-32,
Uh,
they got us.
Man,
they
So
played the whole
that
group.
15 equates to like 25.
as you see, I guess 15, 16 it was an accomplishment for people to hold low.
That's it. That's an interesting.
Hey,
I agree with that. That's an interesting point.
our last one to get your opinion on before we get out of here. You probably saw all these players play as well. We did the start bench cut. We had Antonio Kellogg. We had Armando Surratt. And who was the third one, Ken?
I believe it was
Ken, who was our
Allende.
third one?
Allende.
Allende. Allende.
Mm, mm.
Start, yeah, who would you have went with?
Ooh.
As you
Uh,
coach Jules.
I'm Coach Jules, and I'm going to recruit all three of these people to put on my team. Which way I would go? I'm starting Allende. I'm bringing Kellogg off the bench, and I'm cutting Surratt.
That's been the consensus, except for Low.
I think
Low went
I
with the
think
tech guy.
I'm a Bulldog guy. I went with my
Only
guy.
reason why, I say I'm going with Allende, like Kellogg was a hell of a player, man. Watching him play, and he was the dog, man. And my thing is, especially this day and age, is having someone like Allende is someone where people, people gotta want to play with you. People gotta say, I want to play with that guy because they gonna know you're gonna give them the rock. They gonna know you're gonna be a team leader. They gonna know you're gonna be unselfish. They gonna know when you off the court, you ain't gotta worry about no problems. That you're gonna be the one that when the problem occur, push everybody to the side, and so all three of those was hell of players that I watched them growing up. But if I had to go, I'm gonna start my team with Allende, but I would probably end my team with Kellogg.
Got it. Got it. Man, we want to thank you for coming on the show, Jules. Man, before you sign out, give us some final words.
Man, like I said at the beginning of the show, man, I really appreciate the things that you guys are doing on here, as, black men, man, and bringing people on from the past. And hopefully these youngsters is watching them and give them some knowledge through this rec podcast and, continue doing what you guys is doing. Continue, being positive influences our communities. And, just continue grinding, man. Like, this thing is a marathon. It's not a sprint for nothing in life. And so, I really enjoyed being on here, giving my side of the story, giving my opinion. Once again, everything is opinion based. And I hope you guys continue to do what you do. And any support, anything you guys need on my end, definitely let me know. And, once USF start up and hopefully we get to watch some games, hit me up. I'll get you guys some tickets so you guys can watch my son put the show on.
Well, I'm out here in Vegas. I already hit you up. When they come out for the Classic, I need mine at the will call.
Yes, sir. Done deal.
And man, the way your son energy is with my son, man, I'm like, man, Damari, I need you to be a full-time coach because the way you guys pushing these youth pushing these youth, man, and they being able to see a kid that came to your program and played D1 and come back and work with them, that's motivating too, man. So definitely keep pushing it, man. And me personally, I'm gonna see you later on today.
It's all good, man. I appreciate you guys, man, and y'all keep doing what y'all doing, man, and stay safe. If y'all need anything, man, definitely just let me know.
It's all good. Thank you, brother.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all, man.
Gotta love it, Ken. Jules didn't hold no punches.
Nah.
He didn't hold no punches.
He let it all out. He let his opinion be known. And, that's what the Rec Center is about, man. That's what it's about.
Man,
like, who really was good back then? Like, who really was, because and like how this all started, you and I, we would be going back and forth on Facebook or, somebody like Jay Gaff will post something crazy and then somebody will come out the woodwork like, man, I was super wrong. We like, wait, who are you?
Right.
It's like, no, we got to do a show. We got to bring people on. We got to say, who did you play against that was good? And look, man, if your name didn't come up, I don't know.
And one of the things is, none of the guys that ever came on didn't say Jules wasn't a dog when he was playing.
Yeah.
I mean,
even I said that when we left him off the list. I'm like, nah, Jules was like, I know who Jules is. Like, that dude was.
Yeah. Didn't know all state junior and senior year, man, them accomplishments, man. And let them know, man, when you step on the rec center, we only bring respectable dogs on our show that other people go be like, yo, he was a dog. He was a dog. We can't leave the questions where they be like, man, y'all got to get me on now. Y'all had him on, right? So definitely shout out to all the viewers that's been checking out the Rec Center podcast, man.
Man, I definitely appreciate that, man. It was another great episode with Jules Milstead. We want to thank him for coming on. Absolutely. Man, follow us on Instagram at the Rec Center Podcast. Definitely check us out and subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Rec Center. I'm Kenny Edwards for Lorenzo Parham. We out. Thank you.